In the studio with me is someone who is a dynamic force in Australia's music scene. She is a DJ, radio host and label head and originates from Boorloo, Perth. She is renowned for her dedication to uplifting underground dance music communities and has become an influential figure in the electronic music scene. She is the host and producer of Triple J's Mix Up, broadcasting and sharing music to a national audience every Saturday night, as well as being heavily involved in community radio over the years. As a DJ, her sound and taste is diverse, full of bass, percussion and rhythm, but has a wide spectrum of genres flowing through her sets, solidifying her reputation as a selector whose passion shines through her work. I'm lucky enough to be sitting down with the one and only Kailyn Crabbe.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How does it feel to be on the other side of the mic?
It feels a lot less stressful in some ways, but also, I don't know, it's also nice to hear all these accolades, almost like an obituary, but yeah, no, thank you for the kind words.
You were also one of those people that has done so much over the years collectively that it was hard to condense it into a paragraph. It's, a pleasure to have you on. I've been a big admirer of your work for some time. Actually, funnily enough, I usually start the chat with how we met, and we've only just actually met, probably an hour ago, and then we went straight into a back-to-back, which is
perfect.
Yep,
A dream.
Yeah, exactly. A nice way to get to know each other pretty quickly. But me being an admirer of your work, I actually, funnily enough, dug up something, and I was like, Kailyn Crabbe. I was like, I reckon I've messaged her before. But I looked on Instagram DMs, couldn't find anything. I looked on Facebook. We're not friends on Facebook. So I was like, definitely not there. And I had a look on SoundCloud and I DM'd you 3 years ago. And I actually screenshotted it and I have it here with me. And this is what I said. Hi, absolutely loved your mix you did for Euphony. It was really sick. I see you're based in Perth, ? I was also having a suss of out to lunch. Wish we could get it on radio in Melbourne on a Thursday. Keep up the good work. And you responded with, hey, thank you so much for reaching out. Super nice of you to say. I'm going to listen to your mix tomorrow. It was a great reminder. Always nice to meet Mel pals. 3 years ago.
Wow.
There you go.
Whoa.
I know.
That's so sweet. But also big ups the SoundCloud message.
And it was actually quite easy to find because I don't ever message on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
So I literally just one scroll and I was like, 3 years ago, bang.
Not so relevant, but I got propositioned on SoundCloud the other day as a sugar baby. So
no way.
It's also happening in the SoundCloud messages. Someone's like, I love your style, would love to send you money. I was like, sweet, yes. That was not your message.
Where do I sign?
Yeah, sign me up. No, so sweet. That's so cute.
I know. So
love to dig that up.
Yeah. I know. It was just funny because it just dawned on me. I was like, no, I've spoken previously to, any other comms. But, very excited to have you on because I have been an admirer of your work for some time. So there you go. I usually like to transition the chat and start with the formative years of how the guests kind of fell in love with what we do. And your background is really interesting because obviously you've had time in community radio. You're also a DJ. You've done so much for the community, and we'll get to that in a bit. But I want to know, how did it all start for you? Talk to me about a young Kailyn, how she got into it all.
So I've been, firstly, a radio listener for a really long time. I grew up in, firstly, a town called Collie in WA, and then I moved to Bunbury as a teenager, and then eventually Perth for uni. That's the short history.
How far is that from Perth?
About 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So grew up regionally, technically, but I grew up listening to Triple J, which is cool that I get to do full circle and work there now. But it wasn't until I moved to Perth that people kind of got me onto, firstly, clubbing. You turn 18 when you're from the country in WA, you move to the big city for uni, and I got taken out to clubs in Perth that were primarily drum and bass clubs and dubstep, and big ups Amber, which is no longer. very formative years for me. And I just, really fell in love with it. Never as a DJ. It took me a good couple of years to actually hit the decks. I actually just started doing radio on a whim. I applied for an internship with RTR, or like a volunteer position, which is the community station in Perth, very similar to PBS and Triple R here. And it took them like a good couple of months to get back to me. I like sent the email and I was like, I don't know, like 21. I was like, this would be so sick. I love radio. Imagine working there. And then they eventually got me in. I just did front desk duties. I absorbed all the knowledge, and then eventually they were like, hey, you should actually do a show. Like, you should do the training course. You should get on air. I hate public speaking. Still can't do it. Like, if I have to do a speech, I'm like shaking. So it was actually a really good way to kind of delve into that world and get a lot more confidence, I think. But yeah, it was definitely not planned. It was all kind of just falling into things and being very lucky, and a lot of hard work behind it, and just meeting the right people at the right times. But I think just a love and a passion for music is kind of where it all came from, and just being a club rat.
Yeah, club rat.
Big background in that. Yeah,
that big background in being a club rat. I love that. Nice on the resume.
Yeah,
was that on the resume to Triple J?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I think I scratched out the like failed attempts at uni and just wrote club rat.
Nice.
And I think that said it all.
Yeah. That got you on the door, and now look at you.
Yeah.
That's so cool how you were always, thinking about radio. You're the first guest that I've been lucky enough to speak to that's actually from that background, but also your motives to do that over, a lot of people like see a DJ or have a formative experience at a club or whatever and go, that's what I want to do. Obviously, you're listening to radio, and so could you see yourself doing it?
Not necessarily. It's quite funny to like reflect on because I think I've somehow studied my whole life for the job I have now without ever knowing it. Like I used to, back in the day of LimeWire, I used to like go to the Triple J hit list and I would like download all the new music on that, and like the hottest 100, I'd like listen to all of the music and download it to my iPod, and like it's weird to now think that sort of information has carried me through to a career. Like I just did it for the love, did it because I had long bus trips to get to school every day. And even in terms of radio, I actually did radio first before DJ. Like I didn't actually ever intend to be a DJ. I like was friends with a lot of DJs, and it wasn't until I got booked for my first DJ gig that I learned how to DJ.
Really?
It was like just a fundraising event, and someone was like, oh, can you play? I don't know, I downloaded some like disco and just faded in and out, and then was like, I should probably actually learn how to do this. That would be cool. And yeah, I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, wow, okay. That's so you've actually just learnt to DJ by getting kind of thrown in the deep end.
Yeah, it took a while to learn and actually get good, but
it does. Like it's
It was. I was lucky that there were people around me, and especially at the station, who took the time to teach me. But like I don't think there is too much difficulty going from radio to DJing and vice versa. If you're a DJ, you can probably learn how to use faders in a studio to do radio. So yeah, they do go very hand in hand, and it's cool now to do both.
Yeah, exactly. And it's nice that you had the people around you to be able to do that. And I mean, I'm keen to dive into, we could probably dive into it now. I love what you've been able to do with fostering workshops and DJ workshops for people, because that's often the thing, right? With DJing, I think that was the reason why I found it really hard to start with, because I was just kind of mucking around until it started to make sense. But, you've been able to create a platform through Club Jewels and be able to showcase, these people that want to learn and be able to, show them how to do it. And that's fantastic. And do you want to give a bit of a background on Club Jewels? Because really the ethos behind it is fantastic, and I really love what you have all been able to do. Was it just you doing it, or it seemed to be like a number of you when I was doing my research?
Yeah. Club Jewels is so special to me. We're on hiatus, we like to say at the moment, but we've been on hiatus for 2 years. That was a thing that got started by myself and my friend Jess, who DJs as Mintox. Yep. We actually met during the pandemic on Facebook, in a
Nice.
Facebook group. We were, Jess was living in Sydney. They moved back to Perth and we linked in the WOMP Facebook group where Jess posted and said, hey, I'm in Perth. Like, is anyone else here from Perth? Like, would love to make some friends. And then we like just hung out a few times and we're like, great, best friends. We're still really, really close. And we both live in Melbourne now. And then we just, I think, faced a lot of the same, not necessarily issues, because we were both lucky enough to be getting booked a lot, but there was just a lack of representation on a lot of lineups for women and just diverse folks in general, marginalised communities. And we were really inspired by, firstly, DJ Sarah was running workshops in Melbourne and we were kind of linked with her through WOMP and being online and the pandemic and all of that. And then there were also some workshops being run in Perth by a crew called Soul Alphabet, who are also, they're wrapped with their workshops as well. But they were doing workshops for people of colour and we were kind of like talking to them a little bit. But also, yeah, just kind of off the back of that, they stopped their workshops and there was just, I think, a gap. Like people were really keen to learn. Both Jess and I were getting hit up a lot for private lessons and like, would love to do that, but like imagine doing that with a big group and building a community. So we did that and it was a really cool experience and I love to see even now some of the DJs we like worked with at the very start and taught, being quite prominent in Perth now. And
Sick.
Yeah, it really feels good and I miss doing it, but I think DJing is such a skill share thing. So it's very easy, to think, oh, it's too hard, there's too many buttons, but when you're in a group of people like learning together, I think even those workshops, I was learning something. And we had a few really great people come in and teach the workshops with us, like Rydeen from Sydney.
Nice.
I learned so much. I was like, this is such a cool opportunity to learn from someone who's really like influential to me and who I really respect. And yeah, I still use some of their terminology today when I'm like trying to teach people. I'm like, oh, like this is how Rydeen explained it to me. But yeah, definitely. Something I would love to pick up again and have had the opportunity to jump in on a few of DJ Sarah's recent classes and just like the vibe is just so good. Like people who want to learn from each other and not necessarily making it a paid thing. Like I know that is a thing that exists, but not everyone has access to it. So just bringing in that element of skill sharing and community building was really important for us in Perth, especially.
For sure. And that's the thing, right? There's multiple barriers to learning to DJ, but there's on the one hand, it's like, okay, that's intimidating. There's a lot of buttons and I don't really know where to start.
Too many.
Yeah.
I reckon cut them out.
Yeah.
No more buttons.
And then on the other hand, it's like access to the equipment because, it's very expensive stuff. It's, a privilege to be able to own, a set of decks, right?
Yeah.
So there's barriers to be able to do it. And to have someone like yourself and the others you've mentioned foster that community and learn together is really powerful. And that's what's, I referencing DJ Sarah, some of the DJs that learnt within her workshops, you see them circulating on lineups around here and festival lineups.
It's
and
so
just
cool.
it is really cool to see the impact that it's had on not just those DJs, but the wider community in general, which is cool. But I want to go back to the community radio side of things because that really interests me. Community radio holds such an important part of the dance music industry, but also the music industry as a whole.
Yeah.
When you're starting out, so you're doing this training course, how does the training, what goes into the training course? And if someone wanted to do it, how do they go about doing it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not quite sure how it works over here in terms of like what PBS and Triple R are doing. But I can speak to RTR and I can also speak to a few digital stations as well that I've had shows on, e.g. Area 3000.
Shout out.
Big ups. And RTR, so I got hooked up with that because I was already volunteering, which was really nice. The training, we went through practical stuff using the desk, how to present. Like that is actually a skill that is I feel like anyone listening who's just like, oh, I am terrified of talking on radio. It is really hard to learn, and it takes a lot of training, and no one's a natural, unfortunately. I still feel like I'm learning every day. But a lot of the training that we do in those early days is just, like listening to other presenters and being like, how would you word this, writing scripts, getting feedback from each other. So we're doing a lot of that in kind of a group cohort. And then another big one is just picking music. Like the music curation is probably about half of it. So if you've got music taste, if you've got good music taste or you're passionate about music in a way, you can do radio. Like that's the whole point of it is, I guess, sharing music when you're in a music-focused show or capacity. So, yeah, it was like, how do you get music from a USB into the computer? Like, where do you find that music? And that was actually something we did a lot with Club Jules as well. We realised that was a big knowledge gap for a lot of people. They were like, I make a Spotify playlist, but how do I play that music on a CDJ? So, teaching people to source music, to buy music, to download it in the right format, like that's all really important. And it's not that hard to learn, but sometimes it's just hard to find that information if you're trying to do it yourself.
Definitely.
So, just applying for presenters courses, usually the community stations will have information about that on their websites. But then I also see pretty regularly stations like Area 3000 do call-outs, like a yearly call-out. You can pitch a show. And then also there's another station called Hanoi Community Radio Station. And they did a call-out recently. And you don't have to live in Vietnam to be on that station. So if you're interested, definitely keep an eye out for those sorts of call-outs.
Spending time in community radio for some time. I mean, what you were doing out to lunch since you're 21, 22? Or?
I actually started I took over Out to Lunch 2020, the beginning of that year, maybe like January, and then the pandemic hit. Okay. And I thought it was going to be taken away from me, but it wasn't. So that was great.
That is great.
So I did that 2020 to 2023, and then I moved to Melbourne when I got this job.
And so being in community radio for a fair bit of time, really, what do you think it taught you, or has it taught you about the music scene in general?
Great question. The skills I learned from community radio are just so hard to come by in other career pathways. I always did it for the love of it. I never actually thought it would lead to a job. Yeah. I was very fortunate that even when I ended up working outside, like when I finished uni and I went and did full-time work, I was still able to, slide out of my office job on a Thursday afternoon and go do radio for 3 hours and then come back to my job. So I think I learned a lot about, you just learn so many skills that you don't think are going to be transferable elsewhere, like just a confidence for speaking, just the organisational skills that go into doing radio, picking music, curation skills, and then for me DJing, which I didn't think was ever going to be something I would get out of it. Like if you'd asked me when I first started volunteering there, I probably would have been like, I just want to go to some cool gigs and meet some musicians. And what has actually come out of it is a full career pathway and the confidence that I have skills that I can bring to the table for jobs like I do now. But also, I think the curation is the main one for me, being able to curate a 3-hour show. And that was broad, all music genres. That wasn't just dance music. So learning how to piece together a show and develop my own music taste and build contacts even with labels and artists and people that I now get to call friends. I used to interview people a lot on my old show, including Dawes and Sophie Forrest and RBI, who
nice.
All from here, and then get to meet them when I moved over. And it's wild that, a little thing that I was just doing as a volunteer role has changed my life completely.
It's incredible. And I guess the thing that as to what's given you, the success you've been able to achieve is just the genuine passion and curiosity around it all, which is so nice. And you should be really proud looking back to, listening to the radio going, I want to be involved in radio to what's actually happened now, where you're working at Triple J, which you have spoken publicly on Shout Out Garfi for the podcast I Hate Mondays, which is also on Area 3000. Spoke heavily around Triple J, but I do want to touch on it because it is amazing, and it's, I'm currently speaking to a Triple J presenter, so that's pretty cool. But can you share the story of how it came about and kind of the process and how you're feeling, and give us a play-by-play, because I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's kind of still a bit surreal to me. I know I'm two years in now, coming up to March. And it's definitely the coolest job I've ever had. I've worked in music for a while, but I think as a long-time listener to Triple J when I was really young, it's still very weird to be on the other side of it. I guess when the job first came up, it was actually when Andy Garvey left. So she held the position of mix-up producer for about 5 years, I think. And I was a big Andy Garvey fan. As is everyone. Yep. And I actually didn't get an interview. I applied. I probably put in a very rubbish application. No one hit me up. And I was like, that's fair enough. I, am probably not skilled enough. I'm also living in Perth. Like, no one's going to hire someone from the other side of the country. That makes sense. And then the job came up a year later again, and people sent it to me again, and they were like, you would be a good fit for this. And I was like, true. I didn't get an interview last time, though. Like, it probably won't happen. So, I just popped in an application. This time I think I wanted it a little bit more. I was like, all right, the first time I didn't even get a look in. I felt like I was technically qualified for the role, but you never know what people are really looking for. And I felt pretty confident in my skills. Like, I was able to front like a bunch of interviews I'd done with artists and had really built up a portfolio of work, I think, at that point, even though maybe the year prior I also still I just felt like I developed my interviewing skills a lot, and I actually had like clips of audio of me presenting and that I was happy to send to someone.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas maybe prior to that I was still, finding my feet. And then I actually got an interview and I was like, wow, crazy. That's, still just like they're giving me a chance, but I won't get it. And then I did the interview and I thought I bombed it. Like, I wasn't sure. They gave us like a little task and we had to kind of, program a few shows, and I did the best I could, but I was still like, someone like Andy Garvey hosted it. Like, like Nina Las Vegas hosted this show. Like, this is still like way beyond anything I'm ever going to be able to do. And then, I got offered the job. Like, the phone call, I was kind of like ready, for the letdown. And it was a pretty fast process. I think I had about 3 weeks to move across the country. So I had to find a house and do all of that. It was
whirlwind.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd always wanted to move to Melbourne, but the time hadn't been right. And I still find it quite surreal that I'm here and doing this job, and it's definitely a job where I get to wake up every day and I'm like, oh, it's so cool. I get to listen to music all day and like talk to artists I love and send music to the music team at Triple J that I love and think should get played, and like that's just a really good position to be in, I think. Especially given like I'm not formally trained in radio, like don't have a broadcasting degree, don't have any degree. But I think. Hope that answers.
No, that does.
The story.
I feel like I was there.
Yeah.
But I love the process of how it all kind of came about, and obviously I think that someone who's definitely looked up to Triple J presenters and listened to Triple J to actually have the job would be such a surreal feeling. That it's something that you've dreamed of doing. So it's very, very exciting for you. And you've been doing it for what, 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, I think my first show was like the first week of March 2023. So it's almost, I feel like it's coming up to 2 years.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, have to have a party.
Yeah, we should. And so how do you go balancing everything in terms of, discovering new music and, the rest of your life, your social life, and you've just moved to a new city and you've been thrown into this job, how do you go balancing everything? Because there's a lot that would come with it, and, switching off and, burnout and all these things kind of come into it. And there's always something you can be doing in the creative industry, especially in the music industry. You can always be listening to more music, but how do you go finding that balance between it all?
Good question, and I would love to know myself. No, I think this is something that is not talked about enough, especially in the music industry, where a lot of our jobs are really tied closely to our personal lives. I work part-time. I work 4 days a week for Triple J. Then I DJ on the weekend. My friends all DJs. Like, it's very hard to turn off. So I think the answer to that question is it's something I'm just still learning. The thing that I really, really love about my job is that I used to listen to mixes all day, every day. I'd be in the office, my colleagues would be trying to talk to me and I've got headphones on. I'm listening to a mix. I've got like a running note on my notes app on my phone of just mixes I'll see pop up on social media. I'm like, add that to the list. I'll listen to that eventually. I have radio shows I listen to regularly, like Moxie on NTS.
I was listening this morning.
Yeah. There's stuff that I think I was already tapped into, was already a part of my everyday life that, again, unintentionally has benefited me so much in this job. I already had the skills to, go and dig for music. So I still, utilize things like Bandcamp. I'm not big on Spotify playlists, but there are people I follow that I'll kind of, and labels I follow that I'll go and look for music very regularly. I should get in a better habit of doing it. I feel like all DJs probably feel this way, that you should spend more time listening to music and like you said, there's always opportunity to do more. And you feel like you should be doing more, but it's hard to find that balance. And I think something I'm trying to do a little bit more is separate, especially my personal social media, which I also post about work on. Where, people are hitting me up in the DMs, but I'm like, hey, I'm not at work 24/7. So I actually don't feel like replying to people 24/7 about work as much as I'm trying to be polite and I love connecting with people and I'm always happy to answer questions. There's also just a limit to I don't want to talk about work 24/7. I would like to turn off, and it's really cool to go to the club and have people introduce me to each other, and it's so nice that I get recognised. Not all the time, obviously, but if someone that I know introduces me to someone else and they're like, hey, you should get this person on Mix Up. I'm like, hey, I'm double parked with 2 drinks. I don't want to talk about this right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's in some ways just feeling so privileged and feeling so special that I get to do this as a job, but then also trying to maintain my own bubble, I guess, of just wanting to, go and enjoy music on a dance floor and not have to schmooze in a green room somewhere. I want to turn off from that sometimes. But I think just talking about it is always good as well. I have been out to the club before with friends and just been like, hey, by the way, I just prefer we don't go to the green room tonight. I don't want to talk to people about work stuff. I don't want to get pictures while I'm just trying to have a good night out. And trying to have that nice safe space for yourself where you can even just go to band gigs. I love music that's not dance music. So I think that's a really good time to turn off as well. Yeah, it's definitely something that's pretty prominent to me, I think, at the moment as well. I took a couple of weeks off recently and I was like, God, it's so nice to just not think about it for a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing, you're thinking about it so much. It's your job. And so that line getting blurred, it's important to set boundaries, I guess. So I'm glad that you're thinking like that already. Yeah. And in the scheme of things, that's, you've almost 2 years in the job. That your first year, I'm sure, would have absolutely flown. But now you're kind of putting the pieces together to be able to make it, a long-term thing for you. And that you're not, I don't know, but personally, if that was kind of all consuming me so much, I'd start to, steer away from loving it as much, if that makes sense. The actual job when you're in the workplace you love, but then when you're going out and want to enjoy yourself, you just avoid doing it because of this and this. So I'm glad to hear.
Yeah. I also think I'm just a bit of a socially awkward person, maybe even just an anxious person. So sometimes I feel like I go home and I dwell on these interactions I've had with people and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said this to this person, or this person approached me and asked to do a mix for me, and I didn't just let them know straight up that I like to email me, and I think that's just it's something I'm still trying to connect the dots with, especially when I first moved here and I was like, I want to meet everyone. And like, this was my identity. But when I go back to Perth, it's like people know me because they've known me for several years and they're not thinking about what my job title is. So I would like to, I guess, just like be a bit more present as me rather than my job sometimes. And maybe I'm the only one overthinking this. So it could be very, like, people might not even be thinking about that when they meet me, but that is something I'm always worried about. Like, I think especially in Melbourne, living in a city where everyone wants to network all the time, and it's so good to get yourself out there and be confident to introduce yourself to people. But we also, I think, have to respect people's like own space a little bit as well. Say hi, but you don't necessarily need to talk about work stuff all the time.
Networking in like a green room or whatever, I just avoid doing it because I just feel awkward, to be honest. Like I would go up and say hey to someone, that's fine, and I'll chat to them. But in terms of like, hey, you know, this is what I do, I've found myself doing it. I remember, I actually won't say the artist, but they asked me what I do, and I started talking about, I run this podcast, and I just was like, oh, stop talking, you know, like I hated it.
Yeah, it's cool, like, because you do want to talk about what you do because it feels so, like, important to you and you're so proud of what you do, but, like, at the same time, sometimes it just feels like everyone wants a little piece of you, and you need to kind of protect your energy in that way. And I'm sure it's very different, again, for artists, like, who just want to like meet other artists or talk about their next project, and that's really cool as well. But I'm sure sometimes you just want to go and dance, like you just want to go out, have a few drinks and have fun, and it's hard to turn off sometimes. And I think, I personally need to turn off a little bit more. I've noticed that it's affected me a lot more in recent years, and I'm going out less because of it, because I just feel a little bit self-conscious. I truly think that is just a me thing. Sometimes I have to convince myself, like, no, not everyone knows who you are. Like, no, everyone cares. But sometimes that one interaction can, like, spin you out a little bit.
For sure.
Or if you've been the one doing the interaction and you're like, I'm going to think about that for several days.
100%. Yeah, I've had some notable green room moments.
I never go to green room. Unless I'm playing, I'm not in the green room anymore. I refuse.
I'm not even going to bring it up because it's too embarrassing. Going to mix up. So as a show, and some of the artists that you've had on there are incredible, you know. Some of the ones that really stick out to me is someone like Polygonia, you know, super, I mean, in the scene, very recognised, but for the people listening on Triple J, it's quite underground. But, you know, your curation is so high level. What's actually your vision with curating Mix Up?
Definitely looking towards the underground. I think that is the premise of the show. It's for underground dance music, and that's something I think particularly Andy Garvey really pioneered with the show. So in some ways I feel like I'm just continuing on the tradition, and it's cool to get artists on that I really love, because I feel like as years go by, I think I'm curating it more to my taste level and what I think audiences will also engage with. And people like Polygonia are so cool. Like, just because I'm like, this is a little bit surreal again for me to have an artist I love so much, especially local artists as well. I love when I get someone on that, you know, I've probably DM'd on SoundCloud, and I'm like, this is so sick that we get to connect. I think, something I'm just trying to achieve with this show is to platform artists that might not traditionally be played on Triple J. Which I think is a good thing. It is a Saturday night show, so the listenership is not the same as someone who listens all day, every day at work or on site, or something like that. And I do genuinely think it's mostly people in Ubers, like on their way to the club or on the way home, or I get regular texts that are like people vibing at home, and that's cool. But I think I just want it to be a hub of like, maybe you don't know this artist yet, but you should. And yeah, there's kind of a few boxes I like to tick in terms of like getting local artists on. I want more people on because I want the show to reflect the scene currently. I want to be able to promote events. I think there's just so many great events, so many festivals, so many great tours happening, and I really want to promote those in a way. But also, just the sound, just build a sound that like is very reflective of what is happening at the club right now.
Yeah.
And there's a broad spectrum to it. You might hear tech house, you might hear underground bass, you might hear jungle, you might hear footwork. But I just would like every mix to just be really reflective of what you might hear if that artist was behind the decks at the club.
Cool. I guess for those people listening in those Ubers, you know, hearing something banging on the way to whatever they're going to, a house party or whatever, and hearing you on the other side of it, you know, that would leave a nice taste in their mouth as they leave the Uber if they've heard some like epic set. It would, for sure. Something that intrigues me is like the text line. What's that like? So obviously, you know, people can text in whatever, but what's that like?
The text line is an interesting beast. I don't always have good opinions on it. It is such a useful tool to get direct feedback. Like it is really nice, especially when I'm doing live shows, to hear from people out there, because it is the direct way to speak to someone. So someone is enjoying what you're playing, someone's making a request, someone just wants to find out what that track is that got played, which I can't always tell them because it's not my mix. But it's a really cool way to have like direct feedback. And I mean, this speaks to my favourite thing about radio in general, is that you are always talking to someone. You might be in a studio on your own, you might be pre-recording it, but you are speaking to someone out there who might not necessarily, you know the artist, or they might not have like seen anyone that night and they're just listening to the radio, but you are connecting with someone in a way. And the text line can be really, really, really good. Not at Triple J, but at RTR. I've made friends through the text line. I've connected with people in a whole other way. I used to have regular callers who would actually pick up the phone.
Really?
Like someone would call in every single week on my old show. It was very hard to let that go when I moved.
Yeah.
You know, a weekly phone call from someone you've never met face to face is wild. But at the same time, like with the Triple J text line there, it's been in the news a lot over the last few years. There's definitely just a lot of people out there who don't speak respectfully.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think, and people of colour and women have been like the most directly impacted by that. And there's a lot more in place now to protect presenters and producers in these roles. But it's just wild to me that people are still out there. They think that their texts aren't being read.
The whole protection thing there, how do you stop that from happening if people is there a filter?
There's a filter, I believe. I probably can't talk too much about it because I don't know. I don't want to say anything incorrect. But I have heard from other presenters that it like has changed over the last few years. So I've probably come in at a good time. But yeah, I think it's just in some ways educating people as well. So, you know, something I do, if someone texts in and they say anything, I don't respond to anything really particularly nasty, but I've had people text me and be like, stop talking over the music. I just text them back. I'm like, you're listening to the radio. Like I know that it's annoying when, you know, you want to hear this track and you don't want to hear my voice, but unfortunately this is my job. Like I do have to talk over it at some point. And maybe it's only for 15 seconds to let you know who's doing the mix. But like, you know, and then I'll often get a response and someone will just laugh. And it's like, okay, just so you know, there's another person on the other side of this reading your message. I've been pretty lucky. No one said anything like particularly personal towards me, but it's always in the back of my mind. And imagine if you were DJing and someone just sent you a text and you're like, you're shit. Yeah, you'd feel so awful. And like sometimes when you're doing radio, you get that text and you just have to sit with it while you're still doing your job. Yeah,
exactly. It could absolutely throw you off. It can be really awful, and it's the same thing. You know, you hear about it DJing, and particularly there's been a bit of it in, and rightly so, on social media, just, you know, the treatment of, you know, non-male DJs and people just like standing, you know, these white men just like standing at the decks, just like staring and not moving. And just
it's very intimidating.
Just the effect that can have on someone. Yeah. And, you know, I've been in the shoes of playing the decks and that's happened, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, like whoever this is. But you know, being someone who's, you know, a female or a non-male in that situation just completely flips it, and it's so much more. There's so much more to it than just like some cooked person standing there staring. But thankfully, it's being called out a lot more now, and it's almost got to the point where it's become more of like a meme, and hopefully as a result, these people stopped doing it. But yeah, same sort of principle. It's like, these people don't really understand the effect that it can have on someone.
Yeah.
Especially over social media. And funnily enough, this speaking over the radio thing I've seen on Moxie's SoundCloud sets. People are like,
oh my God, people do it to Moxie all the
and I'm
time.
like,
I always go to like defend her. I'm like, do I need to lay into this person and defend my queen Moxie?
I'm like,
I would do it.
Excuse me, she's got like the most soothing voice ever, and like, it's a radio show.
Yeah, I see that comment a lot on Moxie's SoundCloud, because I'm in her show, like I listen to her show religiously, and it's always like, oh, she loves to yap. I'm like, no shit.
Yeah.
And we all love to hear it. Do you know who this is?
It's so cool. I love when she shares. Her last show I listened this morning. She talks about being out here and the shows that she played. She's like played at Sub Club and, played at Chinese Laundry and just, I played this track at Chinese Laundry and it had this effect. And like, I was like, sick. Like, that is just.
Is this the show with the trip? Was that the one from this week, or was it? I think that's her most recent one, but maybe it hasn't.
I think it was just I don't think the trip one is out yet.
Yeah, that's in my notes app.
There you go.
I've written it down. I'm like, I want to listen to that
her
one.
it was just the first one of 2025. I don't know I don't recall seeing the trip on the SoundCloud thing, but the next one is Galagos, I think, is the next artist. But
I think I've got some to catch up on.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Yeah, we love
Moxie.
I even listen to the fill-ins. I always love her fill-ins as well, like CC.
CC Disco, shout out.
And Scarlett O'Malley does it a lot. Nix used to do it a lot. Yeah, I'm a big nerd when it comes to that sort of thing.
What time does it get aired here?
Actually, I don't think I have never listened to it live, which, I couldn't tell you. But she did do a mix for me recently. That was like one that I was like, oh, I can't believe I got Moxie.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to she was in my DMs as well and said thank you. And I was like, I don't know how to tell you like how obsessed I am with you. But that was we did a summer mix series over the end of December and early January, and she did a mix for me before she came to Australia.
Sick.
It was very cool.
How do you find that dynamic of having someone in the studio or, someone that you really look up to like that, interviewing them or speaking to them or, even having them having them curate, you curating, having them on your show? If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I am first and foremost a fangirl. I'll never not be, and I think it's so tricky to not come across as a weirdo when you're like, especially someone like that where I'm like, I could tell you everything you've done in the last year because I've listened to your show religiously. Especially when I have artists that come into the studio, couple that come to mind are like Zanzibar. I had CL in once, and that is always just really bizarre to me because I'm like, these people, I find like their music is so important to me. Their mixes are so formative to me. They're people I've been playing for years and years and years, and now they're physically in front of me. Like I'm still not like quite, I can't believe I'm in this position where I get to have them on the show. And I really hope that comes across, not like necessarily me presenting the show, but the curation of the show itself. I'm just so passionate about everyone I put on and get in for mixes. And, sometimes I only artists that I've newly discovered, but sometimes they're ones I've been, listening to for several years. And, I don't think I'll ever be cool about it. I don't think, and if I ever get to a point where I'm like, oh, yeah, so-and-so is on the show and I don't really care, like that probably means I need to move on.
True.
If it's no longer exciting, then it's probably time to hand over the reins. But even... I could go on a tangent about this, but I recently discovered a SoundCloud account that posts old mix-up sets from the 2000s.
Wow.
And there is a Frankie Knuckles set.
No way.
A Frankie Knuckles, 2-hour mix-up set. Recommend it. I've reposted it on my SoundCloud, but
that's crazy.
People like that were just doing mixes for Triple J. That to me is such testament to the curation of the show over the years and what it's become. It's not a new thing, and it's cool to be a part of that legacy.
Definitely.
In a way.
Definitely.
But yeah, big ups that Frankie Knuckles mix, and big ups whoever took that audio.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you know who the curator was?
No. There were a couple of people who used to host the show. I think
KLP?
KLP was House Party.
Oh, no, House Party, that's right.
There was, so pre-Nina Las Vegas, there were a few people, I don't want to butcher their names, but there's a Wikipedia page,
Okay.
which I added my name to.
Nice.
But there were a few guys that did it before, and I think Louis McCurdy was also a part of it as well. But yeah, I think my years of listening were definitely Nina Las Vegas into Andy Garvey, into Latifah T, and now me.
Cool.
But yeah, the fact that someone's ripped all this audio from years and years and years ago, like I don't have access to that. I don't think we have that.
Someone's leaked it.
Yeah, or I think back in the day you used to just record shit from the radio. Like people would just like record it to a tape or something, and
Of course.
now they've still retained those, maybe a tape or a CD, and they've just put it on the internet. And I'm kind of like give it to me. Give it to me. I want to do something with this. But yeah, it's really cool to see the numbers on those as well, and just be like people are still interested in what happened 20 years ago. I hope they're still interested in the new stuff as well.
I've got some listener questions. You would have seen. I often get quite a few, and there was probably about, I would say 10, but I narrowed down 3 just to keep it concise.
Cool.
So, friend of a friend, Wav, said, being from Boorloo, Perth, which DJs / producers should be on people's radar?
Big up friend of a friend who is a great Boorloo-based producer. If you like trance and techers, definitely go check him out. He also did Mix Up, great set. There's actually so many coming out of Perth at the moment. It is hard to narrow down. I would definitely recommend most recently the Yikes and DJ PGZ collab EP on Butter Sessions. That one is a big one. Us. Yeah. There's so much that can be said about how incredible that release is. But I started DJing, I think, around the same time as Kev Yikes. So it's very cool to like kind of be on this journey at the same time as him, obviously doing very different things, but he's just an absolute legend and a sweetheart. In terms of DJs, I love Too Lovely. They've been doing some big things over here especially as well.
Playing at Pitch.
Playing at Pitch, yes. Yep. They did Boiler Room. Love them. And hopefully doing some work with them this year on my show. So I'll keep that under wraps. But that will be very cool. I also really love this label called Midnight Elevator in Perth, run by Ellen, Protocol and PDMC. They do some really great releases and parties, but would very much recommend them. I think there's someone called Chloe Deches who has been hitting me up a bit, and I found her music on Unearthed on Triple J. She makes like very cool underground bassy stuff. I think she's also moving to Naarm very soon. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's cool to see people kind of come up, especially after I've left, like people I haven't heard of yet, and didn't necessarily get to see play when I was living there. But they're so like. Boorloo is such a special place. Like, I think people forget that we had Guy Contact, we had Rosa Terenzi, now Yikes, and like people like that are fostered in that community and have kind of just taken over the world. And we do all end up moving to Melbourne eventually, but there is still some really cool stuff going on over there.
For sure.
And one more, Affid. Affid is probably one of my favourite producers, part of the Backtrack crew. I think everything he's put out I've rinsed, and I really want to get him on my show soon, actually. Good reminder.
Nice. Yeah. Yep. Put that on the list.
Yeah.
Second listener question is from PTMC303.
Yeah.
Is Sebastian in Little Mermaid a crab or a lobster?
He's a lobster. I don't claim him. But that's literally PDMC, who I just said.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. PTMC.
This is all the Perth people. They've come out.
Last one is LeJack James. What does it take to get a Triple J mix?
Ooh, good question. I think there's no real answer for it. I never got to do a mix before I started working there. So I also just know that it is a really cool thing to get to do. I always wanted to do it. I never got the opportunity and I was sad about it, but I also never put myself forward for it. Like, it's a really good thing to put yourself out there, both for Triple J and other places. Like there's so many great shows on Area 3000. I got to do mixes on Skylab, Area 3000, some other stations like Sin. And I think it's just like doing it for the love of it, not necessarily to get played on something like Triple J. So if you love what you do and you're already doing mixes and you're already playing out a lot, just keep doing that. And also just drop me a line, like send me your stuff. Unfortunately, I do get hit up a lot.
I was going to say.
Averaging like 30 emails a week with pitches, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Great problem to have, but I think, I'm just always looking for people who excite me, like who's doing something a little bit different. You're not just sending me a mix that is, music that I could find myself. Like maybe you are making music and you're putting that in your mix. Maybe you're like curating it in a way that is really interesting. But also don't send me an unsolicited mix because I feel really bad when I can't play them. I do get people drop me a mix every now and then, and it's really cool when I get to listen to it, but I just like book quite far in advance. So I always feel bad if someone sends me something I can't play.
So do people send their stuff, mixes they've previously done and say, would you consider me? Is that the best? It's
similar to like how you would go about getting gigs. Like if you are someone that's really keen and my vibe fits what this club is. And I still have to do it. I don't have a manager, so I'll find a mix that I've made before for something like the Sound Gallery is probably my favourite set that I've got up anywhere, and I'll pop that in an email and I'll send an email to someone, the booker or whatever, and I'll say, hey, would love to play your venue and here's my vibe. Another thing that I'd really recommend doing if you're a producer, getting your music on Unearthed. Free. It's free to do. It's pretty easy, the process, and you can always hit me up if you need a hand with it. But it's a really good way to get your music out there and not just listened to by me necessarily. There's heaps of people at Triple J that love dance music now, which is really cool.
Sick.
I know it hasn't always been the biggest hub for electronic music, but if you are actively, engaging with the station in that sort of way, you're putting your music up on Unearthed, you're emailing your stuff to presenters, you're servicing your music. I think that's the best way to get noticed, I think, but also just doing what you want to do. Don't do what you think someone else has already done. Don't do a mix that you think sounds like someone else. That's not you. I don't necessarily have a genre that I play out on the show. I couldn't nail the mix-up sound personally. I think it's quite varied.
It definitely is.
Yeah, but
look at the artists. Even just scrolling, if you scroll through the mix-up playlist, it's it's so diverse.
Yeah, and I would like to keep it that way. But I think if I see someone send a mix and it's all all the music's by one artist, I'm it's kind of not as exciting to me because I don't think you're necessarily putting your own story into it. You're not putting yourself into it. You're just playing an artist you like, which is good if you're just playing out and you want your set to sound a certain way. But that to me sounds like that artist. It doesn't sound like you. Whereas if you've curated and it kind of has a build-up and it has a story through it and you're kind of telling me who you are or what sort of set I would hear you play at a club, that is, I think, the best way to, My email's in my bio, so hit me up anytime. Don't DM me, but hit me up on email and I'll chat to people about it.
Before the last segment, I've just got a couple of things I want to run by you. So I've got some pretty good contacts in the basketball scene, actually.
Oh, no.
And I was told that you were suspended for 1 week for punching someone in Country Week, I believe.
Jeez. So the story goes, I think maybe what this person has leaked is supposedly in my early days basketball career, I got maybe semi-banned from the Rockingham basketball stadium for kicking someone. So not punching.
Okay.
Look, I had a lot of anger issues growing up. I don't know if they've been resolved, but I played state basketball for most of my teenage years. It was rough. You'd go to school the next week, you'd go play basketball on the weekend, you'd just have a black eye and just go to school and that was normal. Leaked information.
You could say no comment. That's okay.
No.
It's white line fever. Once you cross that line on the court, what goes on the court stays on the court.
It's all alleged. you know.
Allegedly?
Yeah, allegedly. Okay. Look, I was probably like 12, so I don't play basketball anymore. I play netball, but if you got me back on a basketball court, I reckon I'd still be that rough. I still got it in my blood.
Are there any parallels that you can draw between music events and managing Hillsy's surf shop?
Oh, no. Jeez. You've done the deep dive. No comment on that. Yeah, I feel like, maybe people don't don't know about Hillsy's surf shop, and that's probably a good thing. For context, I worked at a surf shop for like 4 years, high school to my gap year. In terms of parallels, absolutely none. I definitely used to curate the Hillsy's playlist in the shops I worked at.
See, it's always been a thing.
Yeah, I was always that person that would absolutely not let anyone else have a shot at the Orcs. Yeah, no parallels. I don't think I would ever work in a surf shop again, but big ups anyone that does. As you can tell, like, not tanned at all. Like, absolutely the wrong person to have that job.
Shout out Hillsy's, though.
Shout out Hillsy's. If anyone from WA is listening, you'll know that it was a very, like, annoying ad, like, on TV. It would always run.
Okay.
Just like, Hillsy's surf shop. Yeah. Anyone from regional WA would know.
That is class. Up to the last segment, which is called Ricky's Quickies, which is just quick-fire questions. You don't have to have too much thought about them. Just go with your gut.
Head empty.
How many books did you read last year?
134.
That's crazy. Dream person to go back-to-back with?
Dream person, my favourite person is my partner, Matt. aka Recycler, but my dream person, maybe Moxie, only because we've been talking about it, but I'd probably shit myself and be too scared.
Most nervous you've been interviewing someone?
Ooh, I've had like a few ones that I've been very nervous about. I think maybe I chatted to Sampa the Great like quite a few years back on my old show, and it was incredible. But I was just like, that one was one I didn't want to mess up. I was very nervous before that, and she was so good. And I even think I led it with, you should never do this if you're doing interviews. You shouldn't tell them you're nervous, because then it puts a lot of weight on the interview. So if you do fuck up, you feel really weird. I told her that, and she made it the smoothest interview ever. And then at the end, she was like, that was incredible.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, I really loved that chat with her.
Nice. Just a quick side story. Someone I met in Sydney, shout out Mazicles.
This name seems familiar.
Yeah. She plays she's resident of Club 77.
Yeah.
And she's awesome. She was telling me how, like in the changeover of me playing after her, that she had to interview Jeff Mills.
Wow.
As her first ever interview.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because the boss, Simon Caldwell, was away, and so she got the call up to do it and had to interview Jeff Mills.
Damn, I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, sorry, someone else.
Crazy. And I re-listened to it, and she did an amazing job. So shout out Mazicles. It was awesome. It's really insightful.
My first big Triple J interview was last year with the Dare. That was pretty hard, and I was very nervous because that was an in-person. And
True. Wearing the sunnies.
Yeah, he was wearing the sunnies the whole time, and it was actually really great chat. I think the ones you're nervous for end up being the best because you've probably done the most prep.
True.
You've probably like tried to calm the nerves by being over-prepared, and then we just chatted about music, and it was great. He's such a music nerd. I'm just a nerd in general. It was really, really cool chat.
Nice. Go-to karaoke song?
None. Hate karaoke. I'm anti-karaoke.
Nice.
Do not invite me to karaoke. Last time I did it, I did Barbie Girl with my friend Jess, and I did the low manly parts. And I think I was just too sober, and it's really put me off. But we have crew at Triple J who love karaoke and do it post like Christmas party, and I never go.
Nice.
I'm just not into it.
Favorite club or venue that you've played at?
I always love playing. This is not a real space, but I love beach parties in Perth.
Nice.
That if I could pick anywhere, if my last set was anywhere, it would be Sandtrax Beach in Perth. Rest in peace. Those parties probably won't run anymore. But
just getting shut down.
Yeah, it got a bit big. They didn't run them this year. The last Christmas just been because they got so good that they got too big,
True.
and the risk of running them is a bit too much now. But I would say a beach party over anything. You can get so wild and wonky at those things, and the crowd love it. I think anything DIY really that you take out of the club and you take away the elements of a bar and then security and those things are great and important in certain circumstances, but when you can get really silly at a doof, that's my dream.
Intimate doofs.
Yes.
Nothing better. If you could be any animal, what would you be?
Crab.
Nice. Most memorable gig, good or bad?
Most memorable gig.
Probably lean towards good. It's a bit more like fun.
Yeah. I've had enough like terrible ones in terms of like playing the empty dance floors, but we all have that. I'd say probably best ones again, probably the beach parties. I've played some really fun like doof style things in Perth before, but yeah, the beach parties are always the best place, and I feel like I get to play the music I love the most there. And the people I love the most are always there. So it's just, there's
Nice
something
combo.
I know Gooch Week in Perth got a lot of media attention this year. Big ups resident advisor for running that post. But that Gooch Week period in Perth is just so special because everyone comes home. So now that I don't live in Perth and I go back, it's pretty cool to be a part of that kind of like mass journey home. Everyone's there, everyone's catching up. But when you already live there, like it's just so nice to see all your friends and all the people who have travelled for a while. And the music that gets shared in that week is just so special. And so, people just get a bit loose. It's a whole week of partying and, it can do something to your immune system. So if you are someone celebrating Gooch Week next year, hydrate and make sure.
Multivitamins.
Yeah, I saw some very sick folks after a week of partying this year, but was not me.
Escaped. Well done. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm an early bed. Like 3 a.m. is my max. I'm in bed.
Dream festival to play at?
Meredith.
Yeah, nice.
Meredith is something that not only would I like to play at it, I would like to work for them. That was one of the first interstate festivals I ever went to, I think 2018. And every year I go. Just last time I went, I got pneumonia, and I got shipped out in an ambulance.
Really?
I was in hospital in Ballarat for 5 days.
No way.
And still, I would say that was the best festival I went to last year.
Wow.
Sick or not.
Did you get sick pretty early on?
Yeah, I got the full 2 days in, and then by the Saturday night, I think we were watching The Dare, and then I had to go to bed. I was just so unwell. But I got to see a lot of stuff up until that point, but I definitely would have gotten pneumonia like during the week, and then I brought it with me to the festival. It's not contagious though. I didn't get anyone else sick, but I did, develop a heart problem from it. It was not
really.
Good. Yeah, don't go if you're sick at a festival. Just just chill.
Yeah.
Don't push yourself. It's not worth it. I was just really excited, and then I missed out on Jamie XX and Interstellar and Iva Tonye, and I could hear it from my tent, and I was just like curled up dead.
That's shattering.
But yeah, Meredith, I mean, European festivals obviously would be incredible, but I think locally, Meredith Golden Plains is the dream. And it's really cool that they do put local artists in these amazing time slots as well. Like, awesome. I can't wait for this year to see Repton.
Yeah,
see,
5 till 6 a.m. I think it is.
Yeah, and like the level of internationals they bring over as well. Eris Drew and Octo 2023 was one of the best sets I've ever seen in my life. CCL this year at Golden Plains is going to be incredible in that time slot. Yeah, that even just an interstitial DJ, like that would be wow. Like that place is special.
It is. It's the atmosphere there is second to none. There's no other place like it really. Like the amphitheatre, the crowd that go,
the curation of because I love music outside of dance music, and getting to see stuff like I think one year it was cable ties into Kraftwerk.
Yeah,
that was like going punk into like, wow, these people invented techno. Like they invented this. Like that was probably one of the best weekends of my life. And I will go every year until it ends. Like I'll be there every single year.
That. Day or night sets? What do you prefer?
Probably night. I like playing a bit heavier. Day parties are really fun, but yeah, I think I'm in my bass bag at the moment, which I feel like you can't play that during the day.
One word to describe your DJ style.
Eclectic.
I would agree based on the back-to-back.
Yeah.
I mean, we kept it fairly bass heavy and like percussive, but some of the tracks you were playing were pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think my taste is just very broad, and sometimes I find it hard to narrow down. Maybe that's not a good thing, but
I find going into gigs, I'm like,
yeah, I'm like, what do they want? And then sometimes you prepare something and you show up and that's like not the vibe of what other people are playing that night, and you're like, oh, I really wanted to play this, and then you just do it anyway and everyone loves it, so that's good. The opposite has also happened, but yeah, I'd say eclectic, just because I don't really get booked for a particular genre at the moment. I think I can kind of play pretty diversely.
Nice. Yeah. Favorite non-music related hobby? Reading books, yeah.
Yeah.
Given the fact that you read, 134, was it?
Yeah.
That's a lot of books in a year.
If I'm not at the club, I'm probably reading. I recently had a discussion with a friend and I was like, can I bring my Kindle to the club if I'm like playing a set and I'm just sitting in the green room and I just want to read before? And they were like, no. They were like, don't.
It's a good way to stop people talking and pitching to you in the green room.
Kindle. I just find it really relaxing. I wanted to work in publishing before I ended up working in events in the arts. I really wanted to work in publishing, and then realised that would suck. So now I just read for fun. Yeah.
Nice. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Preset ritual or superstition?
I get pretty anxious before sets. I think I don't like to show up too early, which isn't always a good thing, and I wouldn't recommend it to other people. I do judge myself for this, but like if I go to a set too early, I'm just sitting there like, I'm that kid, you know, when you're at kick-ons or pre's or something and there's just someone who wants to play on the decks, like they just won't leave whoever's like actually got a set alone. They're like, can I just plug in? That's me. Like I'm at the set, like I just want to play already. Like you're playing really good, I want to play. Yeah, so I think I usually try not to drink too much. I like to keep it chill until I'm actually on the decks. I don't drink that much when I play anymore anyway. And yeah, just like not over preparing, I think is something I'm very much into at the moment. Like having a little mix at home preset, or like having a good dinner, making sure I've eaten well, especially if I'm planning to stay late. But yeah, not just trying to stay out of my head is probably my ritual, because I think I still just get really nervous and really anxious. And I after several years of doing this, it still happens. So
I'm the same.
Yeah, like a couple of transitions in, I'm like, fine. But like the first couple of mixes,
overcomplicate the shit out of it.
Yeah. Person before you's playing records, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
If you were a radio presenter, what would you be doing?
So before I moved to Melbourne, I was working in events. So I'd probably be doing that still. I worked kind of across lots of different fields of the arts, but I worked for places like Fringe in Perth, Perth Festival. I was working at a venue called the Fremantle Arts Centre. I genuinely don't think I would have left unless I got this job.
Okay.
It was a really, really cool like events producer role where I was like running big involved in running big concerts, not on my own. But we did like Falls Festival. We had like a stage at our venue. We did Croonbin, Leon Bridges, then like bands like DMAs and Ocean Alley, like a 3,500 capacity outdoor venue, like beautiful space.
Croonbin are my favourite band.
Yeah.
They're literally my favourite. Playing here soon in a couple of weeks.
That was a really cool show where I'd kind of finished my work and then I just got to stand in the crowd and be like, nah, so this is cool.
Yep.
But it was like it still exists obviously, but it's this beautiful Gothic building in Fremantle in Perth. And it just like has a really big history. It was like previously an asylum for women. And it's got like this creepy like ghost history, like, and also an art gallery now and like a creative space, and they have classes. But I would genuinely probably still be there if I was not a radio host. And I was very fortunate when I got offered this job that my bosses there were like, take it. Like, we love you. You're good at your job, but like, go do the really cool once in a lifetime job.
Yeah, that's sick.
That was really nice. But I think regardless, I'd be involving myself in music in some way. You can't escape me.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's your last ever gig. What do you close with?
Oh my God. I forgot to think about this.
I gave you warning.
I know, and then I forgot. Maybe a Donna Summer track. Maybe something like disco, or like even some Grace Jones. Like just something very old school that wouldn't blend in at all with anything I've played, but like that everyone knows the words to. I think I started playing disco. I'm Coming Out, Diana Ross, or something like that, that everyone knows and is a good vibe. But like, I feel like those disco tracks are always just the best thing to close on because, I don't know, there's something about like those songs that when everyone knows them and they're hugging and, you know, it's the end of the night. I think definitely something like that.
Leaving the crowd with a smile on their face.
Yeah. Yep. And I've always like enjoyed when other people do that. So I think, I don't think I've ever played a closing set and played something like that yet, but if it's my last ever set, I'll do that.
Yeah. Nice. Well done. Well, you survived Ricky's Quickies. Well done. You got through.
Barely.
Yeah. I often, and I say this on the show all the time, if I was on the other side and someone was quick firing me, I would just go into pure freak out and not know what to do. So you did very well. And thank you for coming on the show. It was so nice to sit down with you. Definitely someone that I look up to, a lot of people look up to in what you've been able to do and achieve in the radio space and also from a community space. You know, you've been able to give so many people a platform, and I think that the music community, in particular the dance music community, is a better place with you in it, and keep it up. We love you.
That's so kind. Now, I'm very excited to be on the show. I have to say, like in terms of people who are doing it as well, very DIY, like doing your own thing. Like this is such an honour because I don't think there's enough of this sort of space for artists to talk about their work. So also, thank you. It's a huge privilege to be here and have so many kind words said. We're going to cry.
Well, thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, see you very soon. Again, sometime. I don't know.